All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Math Puzzle Crash Course. I have a problem here that I found. Actually, I was going through looking at some sample problems to test knowledge of the order of operations convention and came across this one. Actually, I saw and I also saw this listed on a channel. I think it was Mind Your Decisions. May post a link to that video. It was a pretty good video explaining the solution to this problem also, probably with some better graphics than what I've got here. But I did want to go through this problem and explain it, try to reiterate some of the points that were made in that video, plus maybe add a couple of my own based on some of the other problems I've worked. But the problem here is 6 minus 1 times 0 plus 2 divided by 2. There's a lot of different answers that people have been giving on this one. I can just tell you right off the bat the correct answer is 7. There is only one correct answer to this. And we'll go through it and take a look at it. But, first of all, you should already understand the order of operations convention. I'm not talking about specifically a certain acronym. A lot of people will, chime in PEMDAS or BODMAS or BEDMAS or BIDMAS, or they may say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which is a mnemonic, or they, may use one of those other acronyms. I personally don't care for the acronyms that much because I run into so many situations where people don't understand them. They believe that they're actually a 6-step checklist, when every one of those acronyms describes the identical 4 steps of order of operations. I'm going to list the 4 steps here. I do this almost every video. For some people, it may be like, why are you doing this again? But when you run into a lot of the questions and confusion that I've seen, it's kind of necessary to add this in every video because somebody will miss it. So anyhow, the first step is parentheses. Some countries they refer to as brackets. A lot of these acronyms are based on what English-speaking country somebody might live in, and there may be other ones for non-English speaking countries. I'm not real familiar with all of them, but the ones I know of are PEMDAS, BODMAS, BIDMAS, and BEDMAS. So, like again, number 1, parentheses. Number 2, exponents. Sometimes they're called indices or orders, which is why you might have BODMAS or you might have BIDMAS. Then number 3 is multiplication and division left to right. Number 4 is addition and subtraction left to right. So if there are no parentheses or exponents, you start with multiplication or division solving left to right. And then lastly, solve addition and subtraction left to right. You can look that up. If you're not familiar with this convention, please look up the order of operations convention. Please at least do it from a reputable source. Don't look at a Quora post or some random blog from somewhere. There's a lot of bad information out there. So anyhow, the problem 6 minus 1 times 0 plus 2 divided by 2 equals. So if we're following the order of operations and we're going left to right, we see we have multiplication first. We have this minus 1 times 0 there, or 1 times 0. As long as we remember we have the minus sign out there, we have to deal with that. I see a lot of people mess that up, but you do the multiplication first. 1 times 0 is 0. Then the next operation in our hierarchy is division, because we're going left to right, remember. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the problem reduces down to 6 minus 0 plus 1 equals 7. Now, there's other ways to do the problem. You could write the multiplication and division first. A lot of people get confused when the multiplication or division's not all the way to the left. A lot of people assume that you read mathematical, you read an expression or an equation just like you read a book or read a sentence, which is not correct. You do go left to right, but you have to remember the order of operations. When you run into something of a higher order, that has to be solved first. And you can do that. You can actually move the multiplication and division first. I've got minus 1 times 0 plus 2 divided by 2 plus 6 equals. So that reduces down to 0 plus 1 plus 6 equals 7. There is another method of doing this too. If you understand that multiplication is just repeated addition, you can replace the multiplication with addition or subtraction. You know, we got the minus sign out there. You can also replace the division with multiplication. Then you could further reduce that multiplication down to addition or subtraction also. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the 1 times, this one's pretty simple. It's not that difficult. I mean, 1 times 0 basically reduces down to 0 because what does it mean if you have 1 0 or I have a 0 ones? If I have 0 ones, I have 0 of something, right? So it's 0. So I should have the little arrow there showing the 1 times 0 becomes 0. Then 2 divided by 2 is the same thing as saying 2 times a half. You reduce that all down, once again, you're going to get 6 minus 0 plus 1 equals 7. So, you know, as that's been stated probably in just about every video lately, multiplication is repeated addition. Division is multiplication by a reciprocal. Exponents are repeated multiplication. Parentheses are just grouping symbols that tell us to resolve all operations inside of the parentheses before solving those outside of the parentheses. So the parentheses are not necessary. You still have the 3 operation steps of exponents. Number 2 is your multiplication and division. 3 is your addition and subtraction. As long as you remember that, and you just understand that if you do have parentheses, you have to solve stuff in there first, but it doesn't change the other order of operations anywhere. So the order of operations convention is not an arbitrary thing, and it makes perfect sense. It's not like saying, you know, on a number line that, you know, if you've got 0 in the middle, we typically put the positive numbers to the right, the negative numbers all go to the left. You know, there's no reason why somebody couldn't have said, well, I want to put all the negative numbers to the right and the positive numbers to the left. You know, you could have a convention like that. You could just reverse it. But trying to extrapolate that and say that order of operations is just as simplistic and just as arbitrary would be incorrect. There's actually a lot of mathematical reasoning behind why order of operations is what it is, and I've just explained it on this page. So I'm hoping that's helpful. Now, the other thing I run into a lot is people say, well, just use a calculator and then come back and tell me what you think. Well, it's not always the best advice because the problems you have here, and this is an example from a Windows computer, you need to be using scientific mode on your calculator, not standard mode, because you'll end up probably with a 1 because on the standard mode calculator, it doesn't have an internal stack or an internal stack chain where it can remember all of the operations. It just basically remembers your last operation. It doesn't know about the order of precedence of operators. So you're going to probably get a 1. And a lot of people go, oh, look, my calculator said I'm 1. You know, said it's a 1, so that verifies what I already thought. Well, no, that's wrong. If you use it in scientific mode, it will solve it correctly and understands the order of operations, and you get the right answer of 7. So you have to be careful about calculators. They're only as good as the human using them and the understanding that that person has of whether it's the right calculator. But like I said, simple calculators like the Windows PC standard calculator, your Dollar Tree, your Dollar General, your Big Lot special calculator, all those cheap calculators work without what's known as an internal stack chain, basically a memory, meaning it solves left to right and it's not capable of memorizing or remembering multiple operations. So just remember your Dollar Tree calculator does not verify anyone's poor mathematics skills. Simple calculators are fine for things like adding 2 numbers or dealing with one operation like, say, 5 times 5 equals 25. They are not good for multiple operations and will give the wrong answer. So do not try to validate a wrong answer by using the wrong calculator. Also, many people have a tendency to press the equals key after every operation, even when they do not, even if they have the proper calculator. I've seen people using the right scientific calculator or calculator with that internal stack chain, and they'll still hit equal sign. They'll do things like 6 minus 1 equals, and then they'll say, plus 5 times 3 equals in one long problem. And then that's incorrect to do that. So, be careful of your calculator and what you're doing. Also, keep in mind, Math Puzzle Crash Course is on YouTube. It is on Facebook. Appreciate any likes, shares, or subscriptions. And I hope this video has been helpful. I'll put a link to the Mind Your Decisions video in there also. I think he's got 2 or 3 million views on that one. It's also another alternate explanation, pretty much similar to what I've done here, but another good explanation of how to get the correct answer. So thanks again.